So back in, let's say, 1996, before I joined Disney Feature Animation as a technology manager there, um, I had a group at JPL. We were doing visualization technology development. And I was approached by a person from a three-letter government agency that asked if we could simulate human speech, the visual portion of human speech. In other words, could I make somebody appear to be saying something that they never said?
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Real Podcast. Today, we have Kevin Hussey with us, and he is the founding manager of JPL's Visualization Technology Applications and Development Group. He has spent the majority of his 45-year career pioneering innovative tools and techniques to graphically represent virtually every type of data and abstract information used by NASA and Walt Disney Feature Animation. Currently, his focus is on assisting Caltech, KACST, and Earth scientists in visualization and their research results. The FBI, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, National Archives, and the Department of Defense have all consulted Kevin, who has managed teams of software developers, engineers, and artists to visualize in everything from scanning electron microscope and radio galaxies to earthquakes and Disney cartoon characters. So, well, without further ado, let's hear from you, Kevin. Introduce yourself a little bit, even if you want to, and let's hear from you.
Thanks, RJ. I'm sorry you had to read that bio. They made me compress it into this short form, but it's all right. So
Yeah.
no, I'm just a very blessed person who has
Mhm.
had a tremendous career, and it's not quite over. Okay. During reading my bio, you had mentioned I'm working with this organization called KACST. Now, that's a Saudi Arabian research facility.
Mhm.
It stands for King Abdul Aziz City for Science and Technology. So, besides working for NASA, Caltech, and JPL and Disney, I'm currently helping the Saudis learn how to communicate the results of satellite data to the general public and to policymakers. So I've kept busy, even though I retired officially in 2022. I have kept busy on this project, which is in its ninth year, to
Mhm.
work with the Saudis and assist them studying their kingdom.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Sure.
What would you say the greatest challenges you are seeing currently in the industry right now, specifically within the work you're doing?
Okay. So AI is a big deal. Okay. And in the work we're doing now, which is to help communicate scientific results to the general public and policymakers, AI presents a really good opportunity. For example, sometimes we show a map of the carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide concentrations around the planet. And without someone like me or a scientist to explain what the person's seeing,
Mhm.
we're looking forward to AI being able to see what's on the screen
Mhm.
and explain that to the public. So you have a virtual explainer. Okay.
Mhm.
We are actually looking into this with the Saudis to help them simply describe what a layperson seeing in the scientific data. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. Now that's the positive side. The
Mhm.
negative side that is artificial intelligence is, remember, artificial intelligence is a very complicated computer program or series of computer programs that are linked together, but they're done by humans. And we are, as far as I know, we're not perfect. And we all have our biases. We have our strengths and weaknesses, as do various AI systems. So, what I tell people when they deal with AI is you have to trust the source. If you don't trust the source, you can't trust the product. So, we just have to be very careful. All of us do when dealing with artificial intelligence.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you think AI is a beneficial tool that helps speed up production and workflow processes for your team and industry, or do you see issues and challenges with AI causing problems? You can.
So, yeah, both. I mean,
Mhm,
strongly both. It's a
mhm,
tremendous productivity tool. Like I said, in our case, it is going to allow us to do some really good explanatory science without having to hire a whole team of people to do the research.
mhm,
On the bad side, um, the abuses of AI, we're just starting to see them come out. In
mhm.
fact, should I tell you the story about my first top secret project at JPL?
Please, please,
In fact, I
please
only
go
had
for it.
one, and this is why I'm a bit frightened. So back in, let's say, 1996, before I joined Disney Feature Animation as a technology manager there, um, I had a group at JPL. We were doing visualization technology development. And I was approached by a person from a three-letter government agency that asked if we could simulate human speech, the visual portion of human speech. In other words, could I make somebody appear to be saying something that they never said? And I took it as a challenge. Now, the reason they asked me was because we were taking two images of scientific data that was basically the chlorophyll content in the ocean off the coast of California, and we were uh, morphing them together so that they would flow smoothly from one frame to the other so that the data wouldn't jump. They saw that and thought it had some potential for morphing a human face. Okay. This was before the Michael Jackson black and white video where faces were morphing. We were doing that at JPL 2 years before. So I got a top secret clearance because I couldn't tell anybody about this work. And we would take two cameras to do a stereo shot of a person. And we had a system administrator there at JPL that was our victim, if you will. And we gave him a paragraph to read on camera that had all 52 phonemes of the English language. So we could see every motion a mouth would make to speak English. And then we had him say whatever we wanted. And our test sentence was one of the famous Monty Python quotes about um, your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. And we successfully did that. Now, I couldn't talk about this for about 15 years. I was under threat if I ever mentioned that we had done this work. But later, when I returned to JPL from Disney, I got cleared so I could talk about that now. But I was worried about this because, as you've seen with virtual actors now, nothing is safe. You have to trust or know your source. Okay, enough said about
Mhm,
that. But you get the idea. There's the
mhm,
negative side, but the positive side is, hey, with virtual actors, yes, it threatens the movie actors in the movie industry, but it also provides an opportunity for people like us to produce something that we could never afford to do otherwise. Enough
mhm.
said about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All
No,
right.
I will say that that's interesting about that whole story is that how long ago that was, and now we have like apps that do something sort of similar where they show these apps where you can like make yourself like basically recording yourself, and then I've seen an app recently where it's like basically it's yourself, and then you can just put in somebody else. And
Yep.
and if you think about it, it's almost similar, but that was so long ago. That was like I was
Yes.
practically hardly born at that time.
Yep.
So to think that it
Exactly.
was even, I didn't even know AI was even close to being anything developing back then. That's a long time ago.
So the government was using this type of technology before the year 2000.
Just crazy. I never would have known that. That's so cool. Interesting. Very more interesting than anything. Very cool. Okay, so here's a good one. Tell us why you love what you do, and tell us like your passion about your job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love what I do. While I was working on my master's degree in earth science,
Hmm.
I'm a climatic geomorphologist by training. Okay. And remote sensing was my specialty, and I was looking at the Earth from space. While I was doing that, I also was taking all of the requirements to become an elementary school teacher. In fact, I did my student teaching while I was working on my master's degree. I also taught a second grade elementary class near San Diego State campus. I was a student teacher. And so when I graduated from college, my career goal was to either be a college professor, because I love to teach, or to be an elementary school teacher, first through third grade. I didn't want to deal with kids having hormone issues. So first to third graders were interested. College students are there because they want to be. So that's what I love. I love teaching. I love explaining things. Um, what's the other part of the second part of that question?
Your passion. What's your passion about
Ah,
your job?
okay. It is coming up with interesting ways to portray and explain complex data.
Mm,
This is something that have just kept me energized
mm,
since 1979. I started doing this in 1979 at JPL. We were trying to figure out how much forageable biomass was in the California desert so that the government could allow ranchers to graze. Like, how many cows can you put in this area? How many sheep? So we started doing that. And then all of a sudden, I got this notion of we should start, there's these satellite data, these are time series. Maybe we should do animation. So I started animating scientific data and made a couple of what were claimed to be very interesting scientific animations that got me my own funding from NASA. I need to explain something about NASA, JPL, and
mm.
Caltech. I forgot to do this, RJ.
Go ahead.
So the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, this is the laboratory whose mission it is to do the unmanned exploration of the solar system and beyond. So we're the group that put the rovers on Mars. We did the Voyager spacecraft that flew by, all the grand tour past all the planets. But I'm an Earth scientist, so I worked mainly with the Earth scientists. But JPL is is funded by NASA, okay? But all JPL employees are actually Caltech employees because NASA pays Caltech to manage the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Mhm.
Okay. So technically, I was a Caltech employee all that time, but I worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab and we were funded by NASA. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it
All
makes
right.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I just love working on coming up with ways to visualize data. I mean, we've done some really weird stuff. Let me tell you about a film we did or a chunk we did for the IMAX movie Blue Planet.
Mhm.
Now, many of your listeners may remember it's been around a while, but it was one of the IMAX first movies where they put an IMAX camera in the space shuttle and they filmed the Earth. And it was in the IMAX. It was very popular. Well, the president of IMAX came to me after seeing some work we'd done flying over terrain in Los Angeles called LA the Movie. You can look that up. Google LA the Movie, you'll see it. He saw that and thought, gee, I wonder if the guys at JPL could make a flight all the way down the San Andreas Fault because there was a segment in the film about earthquakes. So we actually came up with this method of flying down the San Andreas Fault, a simulation, all the way to the San Francisco area, and we simulated a massive earthquake using 3D technology, and it was really popular. That's what got me interested from people from Hollywood. That's how I ended up getting offered a job by Disney to assist them in doing the transfer from hand drawing into digital animation.
That's very cool.
So,
Yeah, that's very cool. Can just for real briefly, can you talk about that a little bit? The whole
sure.
the Disney part where like, hey, you help with that portion?
Sure. So when I joined Disney, they had just released their first movie that used this system called CAPS. And the CAPS, by the way, won a Academy Award in the technology department for the academy. I joined after that, right after this was brand new technology, okay, where we're going to switch now from hand drawing to computer drawing, okay? My job was to take that technology off of the Pixar image computers, because Pixar, before they made movies, was a hardware company. I don't know, people may not know this, but they sold these big giant cube computers that were image computers that could compute imagery real fast. Disney paid them a lot of money to put an animation system onto their computers. My job was to take it off of their computers and put them on standard computational hardware. Okay, so along with that, along with moving it from the um, Pixar's digital computers or imaging computers onto standard computers, I was also responsible for the effects in some of the movies. For example, in the movie The Legend of Mulan, that some of your listeners may be familiar with. Okay, uh, the theme was watercolor. And in typical cartoons, you'd see an outline would be a color line, and then you'd see coloring inside the box, kind of like paint by numbers. But the art director, Randy Fulmer at the time, he wanted watercolors on the characters. So he wanted to have like the shoulder, the top part of the arm be dark green and then fade into a light green. He wanted a watercolor effect on the characters. So my group came up with a technique to do watercolor painting for digital for characters. That's just one example of many, many things that took place while we were making the conversion. We still had to make movies. So this is what I did for 4 years at Disney. And then the final 4 years, I managed their IT group. We had an animation system that was on Macintosh computers to assist the animators in doing their hand drawing, and then to digitize it. So then people stopped going to see our movies as much as the Pixar films. So after Toy Story came out, the viewership of the Disney hand-drawn 2D digital movies reduced. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to go back to my first love, which is science. So I wrote a couple emails to JPL, got my old job back, and then I spent 19 years there. So it was 16 years at JPL, 8 years at Disney, 19 years at JPL. Now I'm an independent contractor working with Caltech to assist them with this project with the Saudis.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. Very cool. Here's a question. What keeps you moving forward and wanting to keep on, even though we're all facing deep challenges in different parts of our industry right now, entertainment, production, etc., and all within our world too right now?
Yeah. So I I definitely have a passion for communication. All right. And I believe that the more people know about the earth and about each other, just the better off we're all going to be. Okay. The challenges that we as people now, in 2025 are no different than people had in 1825 or 1925. We have to deal with each other, right? And we have this one earth that we need to care about. So for me, communicating to people about the earth and how we can better shepherd the earth. God's given us this beautiful earth to take care of. I see myself as a person that trying to teach people how to care for the planet based on the scientific data that's available to us. That motivates me every day.
Mhm. Mhm. What is a word of wisdom or advice that you have for anyone that's first starting out in the industry?
Okay. I'm asked this question a lot, and I will give you the same advice I've given many people. That is, well, it starts with advice that my dad gave me, which was, son, do what you love. Because if you do what you love, you're going to be the best. You're going to be really good at it. And there's always room at the top. Okay. So, I love geography. I mean, earth science. Back in the day, what did you do with a physical geography degree? You taught school. But because I loved it so much, I was at the top of my class at San Diego State. All right. Coupled with a fact that I had a saleable tool. I was the only geography student at the time that knew how to program an IBM 37158 computer, which at the time literally was the size of a large room. I learned how to process the data on that machine and wrote a manual for the other geography students. Okay. So here I was a good geography student, but I could also do Fortran programming. So when a earth scientist from JPL called the university where he used to go, I didn't know the guy. His name was Ron McLeod. He called my professor and said, "Hey, do you have any students down there that are good students that also know anything about programming?" There you go. So it was being good at my field, whatever that field is, and having a saleable tool. In my case, it was Fortran programming. A case now, it could be 3D animation, video editing. Heck, you could even be excellent in PowerPoint. I hired a young lady simply because she was intelligent, number one, but she was an ace in PowerPoint. That's how she got her foot in the door at JPL. So there's my advice.
Very cool. That's good. That's a good word there for sure. Um, what would you say your of all the moments and all of the examples and all the things that you've gone through your career and stuff, what's something you're most proud of? Maybe at GPL or Disney or any of these things you've been talking about.
Okay. I would say that probably the creation of NASA's eyes. So it's nasa.eyes.gov. Okay. NASA.I. If you go to that website, you will see a series of programs that work with a game engine that gives you a virtual view of our solar system and beyond.
Yeah.
RJ, we've been working on it for 15 years. And it's awesome. It's deep. We have eyes on the Earth, eyes on the solar system, eyes on exoplanets, eyes on asteroids.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's a way that you can, well, basically what it does, it takes a virtual camera and allows you to be a cameraman to place that camera anywhere you want, inside or outside of the solar system, anytime between 1950 and 2050. So literally, if you want to see as a human what it would look like when the Voyager spacecraft flew by Saturn, if you were riding on it, what would that look like to a human? You can do that with NASA's eyes on the solar system. So I'm very proud of that. As far as Disney goes, just being involved in assisting in making these classic movies, from The Hunchback of Notre Dame through Chicken Little. My kids were at the right age at that time, and the perks at working for Disney were just amazing, especially compared to working at a government-funded agency like JPL. I mean, it was just a blast. I
Mhm.
also got to manage the technology group at our studio in Paris, France. We had an animation studio there for a few years. So I was their technology manager for a couple of years where I had to fly over there periodically and keep track of those guys.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a lot of fun. I've been blessed beyond what I deserve.
Mm. This has been awesome to hear all this and great. I know everyone's loving hearing it too. I just really appreciate your time, Kevin. It's just been awesome getting to hear all these different stories and stuff too. And if people are interested in hearing, or I guess finding more about you, or looking online, that sort of thing, where's the best place they can find some of your work, some of your things like that?
Okay, what I would recommend, there's actually three things to do. One, you use Google or your favorite search engine and search Kevin J. Hussey JPL to get
Mhm.
all my JPL stuff. There's a lot there. Kevin J. Hussey Disney or Kevin Hussey the Bucket Ministry.com or .org. Bucketministry.org. I'm now an
Mhm.
official storyteller for this group called the Bucket Ministry,
Mhm.
and we provide clean drinking water to people around the world that just don't have it. So those three
Mhm.
places you can find about what I'm up to.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for everyone for listening today. And as we talk about industry issues each week, industry problems, and things that are on the ups and the positive, like Kevin had mentioned, and things that are also challenges like we face in our world. Over here at what we do here at Chromatic Visuals, we are a post-production studio, and we are primarily working on as a solution for outsourcing your offloading projects. And we kind of manage all those things. So if you have if you're in the need of some sort of post-production and need to outsource and you need some extra hands in that sort of area, we would love for you to check out chromaticvisuals.video and hit the start project button. And we'd love to connect with you there. So thanks for everyone for tuning in this week, and wait till next week when we are going to talk some more exciting stuff. So thank you for everyone listening, and we'll catch you next time.